Dun, dun, dun. What is the Pantone color of the year for
It is
2022?
It is called Very Peri. So
Okay.
it is a take on periwinkle, light purple,
Okay.
if you will.
Light purple. We have Leah on our podcast today, and I'm super excited to talk to her because we're going to talk about the Pantone color of the year. Leah, can you actually give us a little bit of information about you, what you do, and just some backstory?
Absolutely. So I own ColourPop Events, which is a wedding planning company based in New York City.
Wow.
I've been in business for about 8.5 years at this point, and prior to starting ColourPop, I was a commercial real estate attorney.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting you to say that.
I know most people don't, so I like to throw it in there and kind of throw you off
I
a
was
little bit.
saying, oh, she's gonna commercial real estate agent. Nope, she threw an attorney.
Yep, I was an attorney for 10 years. There was a little bit of overlap, like while I started my business, but yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Leah is organized and likes to do research. That's what I hear from that. Maybe?
Yeah.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about your maybe favorite topic this time of year, the Pantone color of the year. Can you actually tell us what the hell that even means?
Yeah. So Pantone, which is, I think it's the Pantone University or Institute, basically they create all the colors that we use for various and sundry things and have specific names and specific codes. And it's just, ideally, it's so that there can be consistency amongst colors that people use. But in 2000, they started doing the Pantone color of the year, which is kind of meant to sort of set the tone, set the trends for the coming calendar year.
Yeah. Okay. So dun, dun, dun. What is the Pantone color of the year for 2022?
It is called a Very Peri. So
Okay.
it is a take on periwinkle, light purple, if you will.
Light purple. And can you go into that? What do you feel about it? What do you think some trends are going to be?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, especially compared to some of the colors that they've had over the past few years. I feel like this is a nice, for people who maybe are a little afraid of color, it's a good entry into like bolder color palettes. And for those of us that love color already, we're very happy to see an actual color. I think it was last year, the year before, they did a pairing and it was like a dull gray and a dull yellow together. So this is... So this feels a lot more fresh, a lot more exciting. It's actually a color that they created. So instead of pulling from an existing color, they decided to create this brand new color for 2022, because I guess they felt that we all needed something fresh and exciting and a little pick-me-up after the last 2 years.
Right. So what colors go with this color? How do you put together your wedding around this color?
Yeah, I mean, you can use it in a lot of different ways and you could go in different directions with the color palette. I mean, if you're not feeling brave enough for big, bold color, you can kind of use it with some paler pinks, maybe some light blues, definitely other neutral colors, and just kind of have that be the more poppy color. But you can also let it guide you into like using really bright jewel tones and fuchsia and bright purple, and definitely just really go for it. So it can go in either direction depending on how people are feeling about using it.
I'm going to guess you really like the dull tones.
As you can tell from the jelly beans and the rainbow hearts behind me. Yeah, of course.
So tell us a little bit more about, how to use the Pantone color of the year, and maybe like, do you have any ideas on like color theory, or how do you design weddings around color? I mean, I guess that is the name of your event.
Right,
company.
Exactly. And I will say, some couples come to me that love a lot of color. Other couples, I've had people ask me during the inquiry process, they've said, we don't like a lot of color. Can we still work with you? And I'm like, I can plan any type of wedding. I tell my couples I will get as creatively involved as they need me to be. So sometimes it's less color, sometimes it's more color. But I really like this color for centerpieces, for linens. I envision like a nice like light purple napkin. I mean, you can't go full, like don't go full purple tablecloth, but like bring in the color. And I actually had, so this color is very similar to one of my brand colors. So I consider myself ahead of the trend in that regard. And then I had a December wedding that had already planned to use this color. So they used it with like an ombre effect of different purples. So we went from this, especially with the napkins, went from this like very Peri color to like darker, deeper purple, like eggplant kind of color into a maroon. They had a ceiling installation that incorporated the different shades of purple. So you can really use it however you want. And I think it's kind of versatile because it can go with those more subdued color palettes, but it can also pair really nicely with like bigger, brighter, bolder colors.
Got it. Yeah. So do you see trends in colors this year?
I can see the trends that I hope are going to be there.
Well, let's talk about your hopes and dreams.
My hopes and dreams are, I mean, I love like a nice jewel tone palette with a teal and purple and maybe emerald green and like a fuchsia. I just love those colors, like really speak to me. So I think that's a lot of fun. And I see couples kind of going both ways. I have some couples that are definitely more into the neutrals and focusing a lot on white florals with a lot of greenery. And then some other couples are really going with jewel tones and lending that to beyond flowers into like dresses for attire for the wedding party and other touches along the way.
Got it. Cool. I guess I can kind of speak in regards to our couples, but I have seen people, I would say, I don't know how long it's been, but like, the white florals with lots of greenery. I feel like that's been kind of a trend for quite a while. I can't exactly tell you when that started, but do you think that that's kind of seeing its way out? Or do you think that that's kind of still a good portion of what your clients are doing, or kind of where do you see that trend?
I think it's here to stay because I think it's very classic.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more timeless. If you
Right.
are, say, doing ceiling installations with shades of purple fabric, like that's definitely kind of like very point in time. And not that
Yeah.
you'll look back and think it was ugly, but you'll look back and think, oh, wow, that was a really bold move. Whereas with the greenery and the whites and the blushes and the more neutral tones, like that's just going to feel very classic and I think pretty timeless. So that's probably what attracts a lot of couples to that vibe.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. So this Very Peri, right?
Very Peri.
Is there any floral that actually are this color?
Oh,
I know you're not a florist.
I am not a florist. No, that's okay. There are. I can't tell you exactly.
You don't have to give me the surnames or whatever they're called.
Yeah, what the specific types of flowers are.
Yeah.
The genus.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. There are flowers that fall into that range of color. I
Got
think.
it.
So
okay, cool.
I definitely want to encourage people not to be afraid of color. If they think they want to play around with it, there's a lot of ways to kind of do it without committing to like this huge, like one singular color. There's ways to incorporate it in small places, in some of the day of paper goods. Like I said, napkins, I think, are a nice pop. You don't necessarily have to have all the flowers, but
you can be bold with your napkins.
Yes, you can be bold. I mean, it's interesting. That's where I actually sneak in a lot of color for my clients, is because I get them to do these like multicolored sort of ombre napkins, and it always looks phenomenal. And so that's my my signature is the ombre napkins. Caterers hate me because they're like, how on earth are we supposed to put these out? And they don't love it. But I don't be afraid to use color. If you like it, use it. Don't feel like you have to stick with Pinterest trends or have a timeless look. I think couples should have the wedding that they want. And, if you need help on the creative front, like bring in an event designer or lean on some of your current vendors. Florists are always happy to kind of get involved more with that design piece to a certain extent. So lean on your vendors and their expertise to try to bring it in, and don't be afraid.
Yeah, that's a perfect thing to note. Like, it's okay not to know and not be good at this part either.
Exactly.
That's one thing that, I'm a photographer by trade, and I think things look really beautiful and I can take pretty pictures of them. But if you ask me to put certain things together or make certain things look a certain way, that's really not my skill set. And it used to give me tons of anxiety, like, oh, I'm a creative, I should be able to do this. But No, it's just like I love to take pictures of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm good at picking the color and
Right.
seeing what color combinations work well together. So it's okay not to be necessarily like this skill set that you have innately. That's
Right.
why you have professionals.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when I was an attorney and I wasn't flexing this type of creative
Right.
muscle. So, like, if you had asked me back then, if I had an eye for color palettes and design, I probably would have said no, but it's just something that I've gotten into and realized I'm good at. So, yeah, people are not good at everything. This is for a lot of people the first time that they've planned a wedding. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in what you don't know. So, make sure that
Right.
you're definitely tapping into the talents of your vendor team for help where you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. So any other color advice? I feel like now you got me going. I'm like, ooh, how about my cupboards, my cabinets? What color should I paint those?
I feel like that's sort of the natural progression for me, is to start getting into like the interior design and colors
Yep.
and stuff like
Yep.
that. Yeah. So the house that I'm in currently is a rental, which is why my walls are beige, because otherwise they would not be. But yeah, there's just a lot of fun stuff that can come with color beyond just decorating. Like you had mentioned before, there's color theory and how color makes you feel. There are books on, like, this might be getting a little too deep into it, but there's a book called Colors and Numbers, which helps you figure out, it basically allocates a color to every single day of the week of a calendar year. And it helps you if you wear that, if like you have that color in your life on that day, it brings out like whatever
Wow.
certain types of energy related to what those colors are. So
There is tons of stuff on color. So what do you have a book?
I do have a book. So yes, close to a year ago in April of 2021, I released a book called The Wedding Roller Coaster. It is a book for engaged couples to kind of help them navigate the emotional side of wedding planning, because there's all sorts of books out there with how-tos and what to do and, you know, how to address your envelopes and that kind of thing. But nobody's really talking about the emotional side, the stress you'll face, the tough conversations you'll have to have, how to maintain healthy relationships with everybody around you during wedding planning. So it's kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit on that side of wedding planning.
Wow. Whole other topic.
Yes.
So good. This is so great. And obviously it probably was timely too. There's lots of emotions in the last couple years regarding weddings, and I'm sure that you even got more research done.
Yes. Yeah. I did. I wrote a whole standalone chapter on COVID and just kind of the emotions surrounding that, because having gone through 2020 and, you know, talking probably like 20 or so couples through what to do, whether to postpone, whether to cancel, whether to host, do the micro wedding thing. There were just a lot of conversations. So the emotions are enhanced even more, I think. So especially here, like in New York City, I've had some vendor friends who had January weddings and they've had to postpone because of Omicron. So we're having
those conversations.
Yeah, we're not out of the woods on this yet. So it's still pretty relevant.
Right. Right. Well, anything else you would like to add about color?
No, I think I want my message to be, don't be afraid of it. Feel free to play around with it. Actually, there's a ton of different websites where you can actually kind of create color palettes. And so it's a lot of fun to play around with, because they'll let you pick kind of like a single color and then you can mix and match with complementary colors and just get ideas that way. And I think people would be surprised to know that a lot of different stuff goes together that they wouldn't normally expect.
I think those are always the most fun to see. Yeah. And do you know any of the websites that you're referring to offhand?
Yes. I just did one. It's called
I remember this one.
Coolors.co. So it's like
with a K?
No, it's COOLORS.
Okay.
.co.
Cool. Okay.
And I actually just used that a couple of days ago, because I had a couple who got a color palette from their florist, the florist didn't nail it. And so like, they're like, we want to kind of play around with different stuff. So I played around with that and found them a new color palette. So,
oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. And that's another thing, that vendors like to work and collaborate with each other. That's okay too. Right.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Actually,
Of
where can we
course.
find more information about you?
Yeah. So my website is colorpopevents.com. The book is available on Amazon, and I am at Color Pop Events on all the social media platforms.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.